Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports as ordered. Put some trouble in it, Mr. Logical.
You're...
And I'm your boy 25. Tonight, we are going to recap NBA Finals Game 1 and tell you why the series will be over in 2. Then, $1 million man, Monty Dibiase, getting all the money from Detroit back up the Brinks truck. That's probably the Brinks truck Isaiah Thomas was supposed to get. And now, a couple of weeks later, I still can't believe that nobody has signed DeAndre Hopkins. Uncle Shay, bored out, not coming back after the finals. How many of y'all gonna stop watching Undisputed? Because I already wasn't watching it.
Yeah, it's been a tough run for Undisputed.
Yes, but Mr. Logical, what is the word? What's popping in New Jerusalem?
Just saying, man, like next year, the Knicks is gonna be back. No, I'm messing with you. I just wanted to say something crazy to start off the show. Yo, like, you know, me and you, we've been just kind of like trying to find topics that I went off my get it off my chest this week with the whole I'm sick of the debate. Yeah, I still got The Last Dance playing in the background. That's because it's just a good documentary and it's good background, you know, for the ambiance. I got my hats, I got my, a towel. So I got The Last Dance playing in the background. But the debate, man, the debate's over.
Yo, I'd be so mad. We were talking about that the other night. You'll get it off my chest. And I brought up like, yo, why don't y'all argue about Olajuwon and Tim Duncan? And then I turned on the Odd Couple and they were like, who's better between Olajuwon, Duncan, and Shaq?
It's these arguments, because we don't have anything, like this is like a lull in sports, even though we had NBA Finals.
Even though nobody's watching baseball.
start 2, cut 1, bench 1, all of those.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on.
And just so you know, America,
you can find
I cut Melo every time.
You can find a good sports conversation. You just got to be willing to have a intellectual conversation about all aspects of sports.
I found one player that I wouldn't cut Melo for.
Who?
Julius Randle.
Stop it. This dude hate Julius Randle so bad, man.
I mean, he went to Kentucky. I don't hate him.
You would have thought that he was supposed to like do you a favor.
Yo, I just tell you what I see,
just
man.
Played you.
I just tell you what I see. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, Julius Randle is a good basketball player. You know, he's a lefty with a little bit of a handle. You know, he got a nice mid-range jumper. He just shoot too many threes for my liking, and I'm not sure he's the best on defense or anything. So, you know, like the Lakers be talking about we gave up Julius Randle. Good for y'all. Y'all gave up Julius Randle.
Yo, the Lakers had Ingram, Randle, Ball, Hart. They had like a nice little young squad, and gone.
You know what I'm saying? But the NBA Finals last night, the Denver Nuggets showed everybody that they are the best team in the league. Miami tried to make a little run of it late. It was one of those fake runs. It wasn't really a run. Denver was just playing around and being stupid. Miami hit a couple of threes because that's what they do. And Raph kept texting me talking about down to 10. And then I would be like 16.
And then it was back to 11.
And then Jokic said, all right, playtime is over.
Yeah, but the reason, like I said, the reason that they were able to do that is what we said in the preview. Milwaukee in games 4 and 5 had like 16-point leads in the fourth. Like not even like going into the fourth, like early, not like with 9 minutes left in the fourth. And blew both of those games because they got tight They had an opportunity, but for some reason, Budenholzer took Brook Lopez out.
Yo, remember Giannis avoided the pass so he didn't have to shoot the free throw?
He almost threw it out of bounds. I was like, yo, this is bananas. It's like, no one's taking it on.
That was a failure.
Boston did the same thing where it was like when they got tight and Miami, tightened the screws a little bit, metaphorically, they just kind of like buckled, and then Miami they would get the lead, like the game 6 in these conference finals. Denver, Mike Malone called a timeout. He was like, all right, we was up. Because they started off the fourth quarter with Highsmith got a steal off of Murray, got a quick layup.
Baltimore.
And then they came back down, got a 3. They went back down. Jokic missed like a little floater or something. And then Miami came back down and got some kind of bucket. I don't know if they got a 2 or a 3. But whatever, I think the league got cut to like 14 at that point. He was like, all right, timeout. Let's regroup. And that's why I was like, whoa. Then they got it to 11. They got it to 12, and they were just going back and forth. But
take note, Joe Mazzulla.
They stuck to their bread and butter. Like through 3 quarters, Murray and Jokic assisted like 69 or points. They accounted essentially for 69 points, and Miami had 63 after 3 quarters. You know what I'm saying? So it was like they went back to the bread and butter, and they just went back to the pick and pop. And KCP coming off of that, he missed a couple free throws, but he came back and hit a 3. I saw something the other day, which is kind of funny. Michael Porter Jr. said something like he played like 231 games. In 87 of those games, he recorded 0 assists. So I'm watching the fourth quarter, and he got like a couple passes in the corner. My man didn't turn his head looking for a pass. He was like, I'm firing this thing off.
Yeah, that's probably why he went 2 for 11 from 3.
He did it like 3 times. He just was like, that ball got to that corner. It was like, this shot's going up. But yeah, so Denver just went back to this is our advantage. Like, the advantages they got a guy at the guard position that can get his own bucket, that can get hot. They have a guy that's 7 feet tall that can't really be defended. You can't speed him up. You just got to hope he misses. But if he misses, then he just gives the ball out to the guard, and then he gets closer to the hoop, and he shoots a little 6-7 foot fadeaway. It goes through the hoop. You play your best defense, and then he gets that shot off. And he's like, okay, I'm good. And Jokic, he'll go down to the block 3 possessions in a row. He'll make that little pass, the little pocket pass to Jeff Green, layup. Even when Miami made their run, they didn't seem to panic. Coach calls a timeout, gets them to regroup. Miami made another run. He called another timeout, got them to regroup. Whereas we've seen in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we're going to refer back to Boston the last we had these conversations, because you're going to see Denver do what Boston should have been able to do with their top 2 players, and then what Denver's going to do with their top 2 players. So we're going to look at that a lot. And they're like, all right, cool. We'll just run. They just played off each other. Even if you shot a jumper, when Boston was shooting jumpers, or when LA was shooting jumpers, or when like Desmond Bain and Dylan Brooks, these guys were shooting jumpers, you didn't feel confident. Jordan Poole was shooting jumpers. But something about, KCP and Murray and these other guys just being able to shoot jumpers is like, it feels like it's really part of the framework of how they operate.
Yeah. So do you think Joe Mazzulla watched that game, or was he watching the town?
He was watching something, but whatever he was watching, it wasn't film. He didn't watch The Last Dance and listen to Phil Jackson break down plays in the huddle. He didn't watch, replays of last year when he was on staff with Ime Udoka when they got to the finals, and when he made adjustments and things like that. Like Mazzulla didn't do any of that. Whereas Malone was like, all right, cool. Let's make these adjustments. Let's get back. But like I said, that rest was going to be good for him.
So I'm going to call this. Jokic's Durant game. 27, 10, and 14, but only 12 shots. How about Aaron Gordon? 12 points in the first quarter, just bullying and bodying everybody in sight. And then it worked out perfect, because what did Miami do? They said, we're going to put Jimmy Butler on you. Oh, okay.
Then
like
everybody else goes off.
So what's that? I got about 4 inches, about 30 pounds or so on Jimmy Butler. Well, Jimmy Butler ain't gonna be effective on offense. So you played right into Denver's hands. I mean, I would rather let Aaron Gordon beat me than Jokic, or let Aaron Gordon.
I let Aaron Gordon get 30.
That's what I'm saying.
With 2 assists before I let Jamal Murray get 26 and 10 assists.
I mean, to be fair though, Jamal Murray's 26 was on 22 shots, so it wasn't like he was like his normal.
But if you think about like an NBA game, your top player is getting about that many shots. Most guys aren't going like 11 for 18 on a regular basis. A lot of them are going 9 for 22 every once in a while.
But
every once in a blue, they might go 11 for 16, 11 for 17, something like that. But for the most part, man, these guys are going 9 or 10 for 22.
I still don't know why I got this crayon in my hand, but but where I was looking at this is, so Bam Adebayo is the Heat center, even though he's probably not a center, like in that Al Horford way. But I don't know what's the floaters. Like, go at Jokic. Like, Jokic had 1 foul the whole game, and we talked about this. Get Jokic in foul trouble. Like, Bam should be quick enough / shifty enough to make Jokic reach a few times or overplay, have to try to catch up. I think
he just doesn't. I think he just won't foul you.
Maybe.
I think he just like,
but I don't think you put him in a position to try to foul you. They didn't.
I think he won't. I think he literally will just. I think he'll get like how AD got 40. He was like, okay, you get 40, you get 40. It is what it is.
You know how many free throws?
30, 20, and 15.
You know how many free throws Miami took last night?
12.
2.
What was I thinking?
They took 2 and they made 2. So I mean that went well. But Bam, 26 points. That's good, right?
It's not the same. Like
25 shots. 25 shots to get those 26 points.
See, that's different. That's when you are a center and you're not a jump shooter. 20, you shouldn't even need 25 shots.
He was 13 for 25, and
no free throws, no threes, just all 2s.
Max Strus.
Well, he's like 0 for 9 from 3.
0 for 9 from 3.
Caleb Martin. Bad games.
Caleb Martin should have been MVP. 1 for 7 from the floor. Duncan Robinson, 1 for 5 from 3. And you know what's funny about that? Everybody was saying, people were telling me, like, you still so confident about Denver because Miami just didn't shoot well. All those stats I just gave you, and Miami still shot the 3 better than Denver.
I was watching First Things First, and I believe Nick Wright, he was picking Miami. And Chris Broussard was like, give me a basketball reason why you're picking Miami. He said it like 3 times. And I was as I was watching the show, this was probably, today's Friday. This was probably the Wednesday episode. It was like, he kept saying, give me a basketball reason. I'm thinking like, yeah, like I was still waiting for him to give his answer. Realistically, what you have with Miami is, if you think Miami's going to win, you think they're going to win based off of
intangibles
and the run that they've been on this particular playoffs.
Right.
But like I said, if just that team of destiny, this coach won't let them lose, like these cliches that you just kind of latch on. You latched your hope on the cliches, but I don't think there's a real tangible basketball argument you can make for Miami to win, mainly because everybody equal, no injuries, everyone just plays all out. Miami has more defensive problems than Denver.
Their zone did better than I thought it would, to be honest.
I think the zone's effective, but like I said, when you have a zone, the big man gets to the middle of the zone and he passes out of the zone. So if it gets to the point where it's 49 to 49 at halftime because of this zone, and I think Mike Malone is the type of coach that would be like, all right, check it out. This is what we're going to do. Either you're going to have Aaron Gordon run to the free throw line to get the ball, or you're going to have Jokic get it. and just pass towards the hoop. You know how Miami, I was talking about, broke it down, Al Horford kept passing out for the 3-point shot. They're just going to turn into the hoop, because if you're getting beat at the hoop in your zone defense, you have to change it up, because the zone is designed to make you take 18 to 22 foot jump shots, either long twos or threes. If the other team is breaking it down to where a guy's cutting backside and they're getting layups, or the guy getting the ball at the free throw line is turning and he's scoring from 12 feet, then your zone is ineffective. You have to go, you got to switch up the defense, because they're going to just keep working that. Especially if a guy like Jokic, who the way he shoots it so high, he kind of floats it. You're going to have to switch it up. So unless he's just missing that shot, then your zone's effective. But
yeah, I need Bam to stop. I need Bam to stop with the floater. I just need him to just go to the bucket. You know, even if
he's worked it.
I mean, look, 26 points on 25 shots. And so, dear Eric Spoelstra, I think you're probably the best coach in the NBA. Maybe number 2 at worst. No more Cody Zeller, please. No more. Just cut it out. You know, get old man Love out there. He ain't gonna play no defense. We know that. But he's gonna grab some rebounds. He's gonna get you some easy buckets on outlet.
Oh, he'll take a charge. I think he's taking like 30 this year.
And he'll hit a few threes. Because you already got your good Kyle Lowry game out the way. You know, that's already done for. Like, we might not see him the rest of the series. You know,
yo, it's silly that makes sense.
You know, but this was the first time both teams had won. Both teams had won game ones. I just thought that was interesting. Both teams had won all their game ones leading up to this point. So, you know, I found little things
something
like that
interesting.
Give. Yeah. So you know, this is the problem. This is the real problem. So we hear when we're watching these basketball games, the broadcasters always talk about people being played unplayable. Like, you can't play this person in this, like DeAndre Ayton, you can't play him in this series because Jokic has done this. He's unplayable. That's the problem. Denver doesn't have any lineup that's unplayable. Like, everything that they do, they can just keep switching. They can be chameleons. They can, if you want to go small, they don't have to change their lineup. If you want to go big, they don't have to change their lineup. You want to play fast, you want to play slow, they don't have to change their lineup. You know, the only difference is that Michael Porter has to hit shots, like I mentioned, 2 for 11 from 3. If Miami shot bad, what do you call that? So you know, Jimmy Butler, my guy. But this is why Jimmy Butler is not on that level. This is why Jimmy Butler is not in that top 10 of NBA players, because he was 6 for 14, you know, 13.7 boards, 7 assists. But sometimes he gets real Tatum-like. You know, they have these explosions, these 40-point games, and then they just kind of teeter until the next 40-point game, you know, which may still be another 2 or 3 games away. You know, I'm not saying that Jimmy Butler had to come out there and start jacking up shots or whatever the case may be, you know, but I just feel that as the leader of the team, the guy that's been carrying them to this point, I didn't really see him drive much. I heard a stat. I don't know where I got it from, but so I can't verify it, but it was along the lines of the whole game, he only drove 8 times. And
well, maybe that's what the defense was, you know, predicated on. Is like,
maybe
you don't want to just keep forcing it, especially when they don't have an elite rebounder on the floor. So they have to be efficient with their possessions, because if they don't score 5 possessions in a row, then you have a team that can come down and get 10 points rather easy. They shoot the 3 well. Everybody passes. I mean, like, Jokic had 14 dimes and Jamal Murray had 10, but both of them still gave you 53 points.
And Eric Spoelstra, don't you listen to these people out here saying put Haywood Smith on Jokic. Don't fall for the Rui trap. Don't do it.
The Highsmith dude?
Yeah, you know, but he put up 18 points. So, you know, Miami just finds these dudes. I don't know where they get these dudes from, but these guys just come in and they're effective. But this is the problem. You know, that worked against teams like Boston that let you dictate to them what they were going to do. You know, that worked against the Knicks that had Julius Randle shooting threes for no reason at all, shooting 9 threes a game. That worked against Giannis with his hurt back. That ain't going to work here.
It's not going to work because I know I sound like a broken record. Denver they have the most of all the teams that were in the playoffs that were in serious consideration. They had the most continuity from October until June. I'm not sure if that many players missed that many games. I think Jokic probably played 70. I think Jamal Murray played a lot of games. Michael Porter, normally, he had the back injury coming out of Missouri, but he played a lot of games. KCP played a lot of games. They didn't make a bunch of trades at the deadline like the Lakers did. They didn't lose a big man like Memphis. They lost 2 big men.
You know what's crazy? Denver is an overtime game and 2 Devin Bookers from being undefeated in the playoffs right now.
I think a loss is good. I think a loss is good because it makes you think, because like if you win all your games and then you get to game 1 of the finals and you lose, and it's like, all right, now we got to make adjustments and we only have 3 losses left, but you lose a game in the second round of Phoenix, or you lose back-to-back games of Phoenix when Jokic dropped 50. It was like, don't do that. Go 30. If you want 50, go 30 points, 20 rebounds.
So what's Miami's adjustments?
You play.
you play better. That's it.
Either you play a bigger player that can just make Jokic have to shoot over a different length person,
different angles and whatnot.
Different angles, because you can't really run Bam Adebayo at him the whole game because it's a 48-minute game. He's gonna adjust each possession. Like, okay, Bam is working his heart out on the other end. They're gonna run Aaron Gordon at Bam Adebayo. They can run Michael Porter Jr. at him. If you have to, you can put Murray on him just for a few possessions, just to give him a different energy body. Because Max Strus isn't really going to beat you off the dribble. Duncan Robinson is not dribbling inside of the 3-point line. He's pulling up off the dribble handoff. Tyler Hero, if he can even come back, we don't know.
But so I heard game 3
he's
originally.
Basically, but it's just Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero. That's just apples for apples. So you're going to get the same thing. You're not going to get anything different. It might be a jolt. Maybe Tyler Hero can get better shots, and maybe
he'll do the dribbling quicker that you said Duncan Robinson won't do.
Yeah, but is he gonna break down the defense? And if he gets to the paint, they're gonna slap that hand.
Yeah, and I was hearing game 3 originally. I'm starting to hear possibly game 2. So
if you think you can be ready for game 3, then run him out there game 2. It's not like he's gonna heal much more between tomorrow and Tuesday.
Get that rust out of there before you go home.
Just throw him out there. Give him 14 minutes. See if he can take a hit on the hand, or in practice, hit him on the hand with like a pugil stick or something like that.
And that's the other thing. You put Tyler Hero out there, then he's food for either Bruce Brown or KCP probably.
Oh yeah, you're gonna run. Denver's gonna run at whoever that is. It's like when you put the backup defensive tackle in the game when Aaron Donald's helmet comes off. Yeah, cool. We audible. We go right up the middle. Aaron Donald's on the sideline. So with Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson both on the floor, if you have them on the floor at the same time, shut it down.
Right.
I'm pick and rolling all day. He's going to have to run through on his right side. All the picks will be pick right. And I'm going to make a run, push that hand up, and try to run through Jokic or run through Jeff Green or run through Aaron Gordon and push off the whole time on defense to the point where he comes on offense. They're going to slap his hand on every layup attempt, every dribble. This is a ruthless game, but it's a championship on line. No one's trying to hurt him, but you want to see what his threshold is. If somebody's ankle's hurting, like Tatum they were running at him like, oh, you can't go left. Cool. We going right all day. So you better switch everything. And it was switching mad late, and Miami was getting open shots because of it. But yeah, I think Denver has, like I said, I called the sweep just because I think if everybody plays to their norms, Denver is 8 to 12 points.
And that's what I was saying, because like I said, everybody was talking about how bad Miami shot, but they still shot it better than Denver. They made 5 more threes than Denver. You know, I mean, they took 12 more, but they made 5 more. You know, Michael Porter, like I mentioned, 2 for 11 from 3. So I mean, it's not as if Denver. It wasn't game 1 against the Lakers. You know, where Denver just was hitting everything.
Which if that series would have gone longer, that would have been like the classic way to start a 6 or 7 game series.
Mm-hmm.
But when the Lakers squandered game 2, Denver's like, all right, we're putting our foot on the throat, and we're running with it, because Miami was winning games too. So if you're Denver, you're looking across like, yo, Miami's up 2-0 now. We're up 2-0. Then they played their game. They're up 2-0. You're like, okay, we got to get the 3-0. Got the 3-0. Then Miami got the 3-0. And you were like, yo, we got to close this out, because the last thing you want is Miami is you lose, just throw away game 4. And Miami goes on and they close out. And now you got to play LeBron and AD again. And you got to work Jokic. He has to battle this 7-foot monster in AD. Because we talk about AD a lot. When it goes down to it, he's like 7 feet tall, 250, 260 pounds. That is a big dude to just be chasing. Like he's not a statue. Like Jokic is kind of a bit of a statue, but Jokic has to chase AD. So you got to chase them, and then they battle, get a game 6. That's like what happened with Miami. They just played 3 extra games because they just played poorly in 2 or 3 of them, and they didn't box out in game 6. And now they're exhausted.
Yeah, they're exhausted. But see, and that's what I was looking for, because, you know, the altitude, you know, but Jimmy Butler, like when I was watching it, Jimmy Butler seemed to be the only one that may have been slightly tired. You know, the shooters didn't look tired. They were just, I think they might have been a little, I don't want to say they were nervous, but you know, it was the first game of the NBA finals. Like there might have been some nerves going on with like Caleb Martin or somebody like that. He might have had some jitters, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, all the chips are pushed to the center of the table at this point. Is like you're all the effort you put in to get to the NBA finals, starting with preseason training camp, all the months and all the, you know, the days and hours and minutes you put in to getting to this point. And you can just be outplayed for the next 3 games, and people will ignore the fact that you worked as hard as you did to get to the NBA finals. So I think it's a lot of pressure. It's like, oh, I can make this shot. Or like Duncan Robinson, when he missed those 2 shots in game 6, is like, if he doesn't have a game where he goes 7 for 12 from 3 at any point in this series, people will look back like, yo, remember that game 6 where he misses wide open threes? I don't think he ever recovered from that.
All the sports psychologists.
Even though the 2 things may be completely separate, it's just, that's all people are going to remember. They're going to remember what happened in May and June because you've gotten this far. I don't think people are going to talk about the Memphis season because of all the turmoil, but I don't think people are going to like bring up whatever De'Aaron Fox didn't do in his round 1 series against Golden State next year in conversation.
Right. But I think that's one of the messages is Eric Spoelstra has to hammer home, you know, guys, we are an 8 seed. Nobody expected us to be here. Nobody expects us to get through here. Like house money right now.
Playing with house money.
Yeah, if we lose this series, we were supposed to. If we win this series, maybe the greatest story in NBA history.
We're getting a documentary.
We're getting a documentary, 30 for 30 at least. Something.
Your grandson's going to wear your jersey on career day.
Baltimore going to name a street after Highsmith.
You'll get your own day. People been celebrating Isaiah Pacheco from South Jersey. ever since the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Like his family threw a big party down in South Jersey. So, I mean, he scored a touchdown in that game. He had a good season. But when you're from like a small hometown, like do you do something big like that? Oh, absolutely. Big billboards. Remember when Dame Lillard was playing at Weber State and they had him all over the billboard? He's from Oakland. Nah, for 4 years he was from Ogden, Utah.
Yeah, I'm gonna respect Miami and say that the series ain't over, but for all intents and purposes, I think the series might be over. Like, because I think Jimmy Butler is gonna have to channel. I don't want to be disrespectful and do the thing, but he's got to. Yeah, he's got to Jimmy Bubbles. He's got to channel Jimmy Bubbles, but the problem is that he was able to do that twice in that series against the Lakers. He might need to do it 4 times to win this series.
Yo, I remember like me, my son, and my dad were in a full-on triangle argument. The two of them are always against me, no matter what the argument is. It could be like chocolate versus vanilla ice cream. The two of them are gonna like chocolate. We're gonna have this argument. That's just what we do. but my statement was like, yo, this series is over because Jimmy Butler has to have a 40-point triple-double for them to win a game. It's like he can't keep doing that. And considering I know people don't really like the bubble, but if you looked at some of the possessions when LeBron decided, I'm just gonna give us some points, he literally he was pushing the ball through double teams, picking it up at the free throw line, taking another step, George Gervin finger roll. Like he was literally getting everything he wanted against Miami when he decided, like 3 or 4 possessions in a row, he was just getting to the cup every time. And Jimmy Butler was like dead tired after those wins. And it's like, you can't keep doing that every other day, even though they were only going. I don't know if the game was in the same hotel, but granted, they weren't traveling far. Best case scenario, they were traveling across, a courtyard to their hotel. But I don't know how much recovery he had, but I know in those 2 games that they won, he had 40-point triple doubles, and the Lakers still had chances to win or to like cut the lead from like 4-1, and he still was playing his heart out. I was like, you can't. That's not sustainable. Because even LeBron and AD, neither one of them were playing like that. They were going 30, 12, and 10 for the Lakers to win. He was going like 40, 10, and 10 for them to win those 2 games.
Well, they keep running into this problem where like the other teams have deeper talent. Like Miami has players that they play, but they always are fighting a talent deficit. Like Jimmy Butler is because Jimmy Butler is not, like when we talk about these things, he's not, your Kobe or your LeBron or like somebody of that stature. Like he's just a dude that is good at basketball, that has a pit bull heart, and eventually talent wins over heart.
Like Rudy.
Don't start that.
But Jimmy Butler's gonna go like 32, 12, and 12 next game, by the way.
It still might not be enough.
And they'll lose by 6.
Yeah, because then Bam will score 17 points on 31 shots or something.
And have 5 fouls.
So Monty Williams, the $1 million man, the $100 million man potentially, took over in Detroit. And he's had some success with young players. He had Booker, Mikal Bridges, taking it back to New Orleans. He was there with young Chris Paul. He was there with David West, young David West. Mo Pete. Mo Pete, shout out.
I always liked him. He was one of those guys. Like Rasul Butler was a guy I always liked to watch. Just certain players I just like. I like Steve Francis. I
want to say they had Stojakovic at some point too.
I think they had Stojakovic.
Yeah,
I'm not from around these
45s and this, boys pop and spit. I'm not from around these parts. I'm
Stojakovic. Shout out to Joe Budden.
And then also, on top of Monty Williams, we learned today that Frank Vogel is the new coach of the Phoenix Suns. But before we even get into that, did you hear this I was listening to Debatable this morning. Did you hear Nick Nurse when they asked him about James Harden?
No, give me the answer. Give me a good one.
So they go. So the reporter goes, do you want James Harden back? And he's like, pardon me. And he's like, do you want James Harden back? And he's like, James Harden's a great player. It's like, you didn't really answer my question. Like, do you want James Harden back? And he's like, James has a decision to make, and if he chooses to stay with us, we'll be fine with that.
we're gonna coach the players that are gonna be here.
Yeah. But Frank Vogel, let's start with him because Monty's the main event here. So let's start with Frank Vogel. What do you think about Frank Vogel to the Suns? NBA champion Frank Vogel, that is.
NBA champion Frank Vogel. I think it's a good move. Normally I don't like the repeat, but excuse me, that normally applies when I think the coach flamed out and got fired.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of coaches recently, especially last 5-6 seasons, we could probably run them off. I think a lot of these coaches got fired prematurely based off expectations that either because a lot of NBA teams have changed hands as far as ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of teams are just getting bought out and just new owners. Like A-Rod is on the ownership team of the Timberwolves, just kind of out of nowhere. Phoenix, granted, this year they got sold because they had the issue with the Robert Sarver. But you had like Philly was bought and sold recently. And it didn't make the splash that the Clippers purchase made because I was like the first one that went for $2 billion when they were evaluated at like 700, 800 million. And that Donald Sterling was like a big deal. But it's been a lot of NBA teams that in the second or third year of a coach being on staff get sold or majority stake gets sold. And then the new owner comes in and the team underperforms based off the money that he or she just invested. So coaches are getting fired prematurely. Frank Vogel shouldn't have got fired. Like, that's my personal opinion. Same way with Nick Nurse. I don't think Nick Nurse should have got fired. So when Philly picked him up, I think it was a good pickup. Monty Williams, we had a discussion about it. Like, maybe he should go because they felt like the collapse. But Frank Vogel being hired on, I thought it was a good deal. He pretty much had a year to chill out. The Lakers probably paid him for this last year. Probably got some vacation and probably went to Greece or something like that. People like doing that now. And he has talent in Phoenix. Is Kevin Durant going to give you 3 more years of Kevin Durant basketball? Is Booker going to give you the whole Mamba mentality? Which I'm gonna say no because it's just I think it's like
can Durant give you 70 games?
Can he give you 65 games? I'll give you 17 off.
Probably no.
If you give me 65 games, then we're good. Booker, you get me 70, 74 games.
Can Vogel save Ayton, DeAndre Ayton?
Like, I don't know what Ayton's issue is.
I don't think Ayton's that bad. I think it's a little overstated, but he's.
I don't think he's bad. I just think for something's up.
Mm-hmm.
Either Monty Williams just didn't have a package or any kind of foresight to figure out how to get him involved, whereas Vogel just had a couple years of AD. If he can get some of that to Ayton, like, hey, these are the kind of plays we would run for AD, but you got to get in the lab and work on turning over each shoulder, baseline, or
hopefully Frank Vogel gets a bench. Hopefully they get a better bench because that's like start number one.
You just gotta honestly, I think the talent pool of NBA players, you just gotta play them. We see it with Highsmith. Just put them out there. Have them play their scheme. Like we talked about this before. It's like, why do you have 15 dudes on the roster if 6 of them don't take their jackets? There's dudes that probably can come out with no tape on their ankles, regular Air Force Ones on, no uniform underneath, and we would have no idea because the coach never calls on them. Like I was watching a TikTok video. I don't have TikTok. It was like on Instagram. And it was a guy from Minnesota, and he walked out. Some dude screaming, "How many minutes you gonna play tonight, my man?" He looked foreign. He just was like, he just walked out and just did his warm up and sat down. It's like, so if you could get some of these guys, get them on the floor, figure out a way to get Ayton offensively viable. That way you can play Kevin Durant for 32 minutes the way they do with Giannis. How they have Bobby Portis in there taking like those jumpers, and they have Brook Lopez in there, and you could play Giannis for 32. If you could play Kevin Durant for 30 to 32 minutes, I mean, that could be huge, and that could stretch him out.
And my guy Jock Landale, so like I said, I think they need a bench, because even with Devin Booker, when he was on his tear and everything in those 2 games against Denver, one of those games was still sealed by my NBA 2K21 superstar. I had to go back, 21 superstar Landry Shamet, hitting a couple of threes. I don't know this Brooklyn trade that they made. I don't know how Brooklyn walked away with all that.
Because if you think about the West, I think Phoenix knew they could beat Memphis. They probably felt like they could beat LA because LA was still fighting for the play-in. They felt like they were going to beat Minnesota. So anybody that was in a playoff hunt at the time of the trade, they felt like they could beat if they got Kevin Durant. And they made the move. We've seen for years that it's not wise for a team to completely deplete their bench in midseason.
Right.
I don't know why they made the move. I don't know why someone didn't come in and say no, but they had new ownership. New ownership wants to make a splash because I just spent $4.5 billion on this team. I want to do the
I need my ROI
immediately.
I need my ROI right now. Saying like when I was looking at this, when I was thinking about this earlier, I thought to myself, can Devin George? See,
another player.
Well, you already see where I'm about to go with this. Can Devin Booker turn a little bit into a little Paul George? Can he add a little Paul George to his game? That's how I was going with that. Just from the standpoint of, I think he's a better creator than some people realize. But, I think he could take his game, because Chris Paul's old. Chris Paul's
out of there though, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's probably going to
be out of there.
He's got to be. And if he's not, either way, Devin Booker probably needs the ball in his hands even more than it already is. But can he add that Paul George defense as well? Because Frank Vogel, that's where I remember him getting his start, was with the Pacers, and they were challenging the Heat, in the East. Miami, except for the part where Miami disrespected them and was like, we don't even care about home court. We'll take these last couple games off and you have it, and they still beat them. But he got that team to that point. And when we look back at that team, I'm not sure that team was really that good. I mean, Roy Hibbert, was there and everything. So Frank Vogel obviously can coach. Then he had the thing in Orlando. I don't even know what happened there, but that didn't last.
I don't know if anybody succeeds besides Disney or Orlando.
Yeah, and then and then of course he won the title with the Lakers, and they had a little bit of KCP mixed in there. They had some Kuzma mixed in there. He got fired from LA because of Russell Westbrook. Like Pelinka's bad move, but
Pelinka makes nothing but bad moves.
But you can't fire.
People keep fronting like, I would have given an executive a year. No,
Pelinka can't fire himself, so Frank Vogel was the next best thing. So I think this is a good move for Phoenix moving forward, because I think that Monty Williams took them as far as he could. Not because he's not a good coach, but I just think that these things only last but so long, because they just made the finals 2 years ago. They weren't making the finals this year. And not only that, but they had that 2-0 lead. But so when we look at these collapses that you talked about, you said it, you brought it up. They were down 30 at the half against Dallas last year.
They were down at 50. They were down 50 at one point. The score was 77-27 at one point, right?
And if
I'm not mistaken,
it was something like that. And where were both of these games at? These games were in the Valley. So Monty Williams, I think he had to go. I don't necessarily think he needed to be fired, but just putting it all together, I can understand
they parted
why.
Ways.
Yeah, something like that.
They agreed to part ways.
Something like that. But I think Vogel, like I said, I think it's going to be roster construction. They're going to have to get some pieces in there because Monty Williams was playing Durant and Booker. They both averaged over 43 minutes.
Yeah, 40 minutes.
40 in the playoffs. And these weren't games where it's like, hey, it's game 6 and we're up 3-2. Let's just push and get out of here. Like these were like every night against the Clippers without Kawhi, without Paul George. So that team needs something. They need to be injected with some kind of infusion or something. Or maybe Kevin Durant needs to play more than 8 games, with the team before the playoff starts.
I mean, I don't think the amount of games he played before the playoffs start. I just thought that they just didn't have they just didn't have enough bodies.
No, I know, but when you're going up against a team like Denver, you talked about their chemistry earlier and the continuity.
If they were able to keep, like, I don't know if Brooklyn would have gone for this, but if they were able to keep maybe Cam Johnson, maybe somehow they can keep Mikal Bridges and still make the Kevin Durant trade.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can do that. I don't know what you could have done.
They would have asked for they would have asked for Devin Booker. That's what they would have did.
I mean, I probably would have swung Ayton in that trade and kept Bridges.
But I think
you can start Bismack Biyombo.
I think Brooklyn.
If you're not gonna run any plays for Ayton, I think Brooklyn would have taken DeAndre Ayton.
Well, I think Brooklyn likes Claxton already. I think they like him. So I don't know if they would have taken Ayton.
But I think you could put one at the 4, one at the 5. Because they had no size in Brooklyn. And the biggest issue they had was like they couldn't defend the rim. Like that was their problem.
Definitely made the
entire time Kyrie was there.
That would have made the Philly series interesting.
So, and then Mikal Bridges, like I think you could have probably made that deal with Ayton and kept Mikal Bridges. In hindsight, granted, hindsight's 2020. Because if you're literally not going to run anything for Ayton, then why do you have him?
So Monty Williams, not quite. He didn't win an NBA championship, but he did take the Suns to the finals, like we mentioned. He did take
championship level coach.
He did take the Pelicans to the Western Conference Finals when they ran into the late great Kobe Bean Bryant, and lost in 6 games. That was, I believe that was the year after, or the year. It was either the year before or after the whole Chris Paul to the Lakers trade
debacle. Yeah, after. No, it was before.
Yeah, it was right in that window
because the trade he went to the Clippers right after they kiboshed the Lakers one. So the Lakers trade got deaded by Stern, and then the Clippers one went through in that same offseason.
Yeah, so 2-time Coach of the Year, 5-time Coach of the Month,
respected around the league.
Detroit.
I don't know how they gave him that much money though,
because they're Detroit.
I mean, the Knicks did that with Phil Jackson with that advisory player personnel president job where he got paid like $12 million. I think he was like 5 years. It was like 5 years, $60 million or something like that.
Hey, Detroit they're a basketball hungry city that ain't been shit since we were wearing BDUs.
Yo, that's a long time. I was talking about BDUs yesterday.
Because think about it. This is 2023. That title was 2004. And they had like another 2 to 3 year run after that. They went to Game 7. They went to Game 7 with the Spurs. They went to Game 7 with the Spurs, and then LeBron happened, and then that was the end of their chapter.
Yeah, so LeBron happened in 07, and then it got wrapped up after that.
Yeah, and Detroit hasn't done anything since. So
it's bad contracts after bad contracts.
Yeah, bad contracts. Jeremy Grant, but when we're looking at Detroit, Blake Griffin, but when we're looking at Detroit, they got Cade Cunningham. They got Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren. They got the number 5 pick in this draft.
Is it 5 or 4? They should have. They were in line for 2 or 3, right?
Yes, they were in line for number 1.
They had the third best odds to get 1.
Yeah,
and they ended up outside of the 3 because Charlotte got 2. San Antonio
no, I was right.
1.
I was right. It was 5.
You got 5.
Houston got 4. Houston was 4. So yeah, I was right. So so they got the 5th pick in this draft. Maybe they can move that if somebody's willing and maybe get a vet in there or something. But they got some talent. They got James Wiseman, a failed Golden State fame. So they got talent up and down the roster. I think they just need somebody that can cook
players.
it.
I don't know if you have talent. I think you got young players.
Well, I think Cade Cunningham is.
But they got 2 point guards that aren't point guards.
This is
Ivy and Cunningham. They're both point guards. Neither one of them play the point like they don't.
I think Cade is more point than Jaden. I think Jaden's one of those dudes that is a scorer, but he's little. Yeah. So I think it could work. I think, for lack of better words, I think it could work. But I think that Monty is the right type of coach because they had Dwayne Casey, who is now upstairs in the front office.
Can you think about this though? You just got fired from a job, and they bring in a new guy and pay him $100 million to do your job, and they move you up in the fire me because, like I said, NBA coaches' contracts are guaranteed. So if he had a 5-year, $40 million contract, fire me. You still got to pay me that money. I'm not gonna come help you, and then you replace me with a guy and pay him $100 million. Like, nah.
Right. Like I'm a coach of the year too. Damn it.
Yeah. But you burn a bridge and expect me to send a yacht. Like, nah, what do you do that at?
So Frank Vogel. So Frank Vogel, the expectation is going to be championship. Not necessarily because he's a championship coach, but just because of the players that they have. What are we expecting or wanting if we look at Detroit, say 3-4 years from now?
37 wins annually.
In 3 years?
In 37? 45.
Okay. But not in the play-in, right?
Well, the East play-in was, I don't think those teams were below 500. I think Miami was close, right? They're like 41 and 41 or 42 and 40.
Atlanta was just
I think Atlanta was like 41 and 4. I think they were like average the entire season. Like every month, they were 500 basketball team every single month. It was some crazy stat, and they had like the same amount of like points. It was crazy just coincidence with as far as points. So Detroit, you figure you get them. I mean, like I said, 20 teams make the playoffs essentially with the
I know that the NBA doesn't really care about divisions, but just for the sake of conversation, Milwaukee's probably still got another 2 to 3 years left to try to win a title. Cleveland is up and coming, if they can get a bigger guard and, because I don't think they can last very long with Garland and Mitchell. So they got to probably get a bigger guard in there.
That's solid. I mean, they're both 6'3", 6'4".
Maybe.
But no one's running around with 6'6" guards anymore.
Everybody's running around with Cunningham 6'8".
But that's
why? Let me get through my exercise here. Let me get through my exercise here. So you got Indiana, with Tyrese Halliburton, who I love. They've been trying to get rid of Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, so who knows what happens there. And they have the number 7 pick. Then you got Chicago, who I don't know what they doing. I guess they got to get rid of
bad checks.
They got to get rid of Zach LaVine. They got to get rid of Zach LaVine at some point. Vucevic is probably going to be out of there, I'm guessing, this offseason, potentially. And then after next season, I'm guessing Billy Donovan's out of there. So Detroit's in a position where, at least in their division, they can be the 3rd best team.
But the problem is, even with all the turmoil of the other teams, you still have to have some players on your team, at least one player that is your guy.
They got Bogdanovic.
Even if you're not a great team, like Orlando has Pablo Banchero. Milwaukee obviously has Giannis. Phoenix has Booker. The Clippers, when healthy, they got Kawhi Leonard. Chicago has DeMar DeRozan, even though you're not a big fan of him. The Knicks have Brunson. You know, like you need a guy on your team that is the guy that you can base your identity around. I'm not sure if Detroit has identified that guy yet.
No, they
And
probably haven't.
it might take this year to even figure that out.
Well, also
maybe somebody, maybe this Jaden Ivey guy, like in the off season, they work it and they figure, okay, all right, he's the guy, or Cunningham is the guy, or Wiseman is the guy. But until they figure that out, they're gonna be 30 and 52 next year.
Well, Cade Cunningham also got hurt very early in the season too, so that didn't help either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like even with the injuries, but even with the injuries, we know Dame Lillard's the guy in Portland.
Yeah, he played 12 games this year.
You know what I mean? So and that's the thing. So you have, like, if you look at Oklahoma City, you got SGA, and they're bringing in, they got Giddey, who's playing like a guy. And then you got Chet Holmgren, he's coming in. Granted, he missed his whole rookie year playing the exhibition game out in LA. But you know, maybe he put on a little weight, maybe he put on 8 to 12 pounds, maybe got a little bigger.
Well, you know, I was reading about his rivalry with Wembanyama, so that's going to be interesting.
I mean, two dudes, 15 feet tall, about 400 pounds. Just think about a person that's 15 feet tall.
Saying Los Gigantes,
that only weighs like 420 pounds.
Yeah,
like, just think about that realistically. Like a stop sign is like 8 feet.
But yeah, so I don't know. Like I think Monty Williams is going to come with some form of, especially with that money, he's going to come with some form of expectation. So they're going to have to get rid of somebody. Maybe Wiseman's on the move again.
I think what he has, the benefit that he has, is that his contract is so ridiculous that it would literally, if you don't give him 3 full seasons, and half of that, 3 full seasons and $36 million out of this 72, you're wasting your money. So he has 240 games. 246 games to figure out, can you get to 146 and 100?
Right.
Like, can you get to that? Because you're not gonna get rid of him before 3 years and pay him 36 plus. You fire him in the middle after 2 seasons. You're probably gonna get a pretty good player at 5. Like we talked about, maybe one of the twins from the OTE.
But see, that's just another guard.
Maybe you can move up and get Brandon Miller. Maybe you get somebody to put a video on his Twitter of him smoking weed and he drops you at 5. Whatever you got to do.
Maybe
you got to make.
I'm thinking
make a deal with Portland.
Make
an exchange, and you got to do something. If you're
going to spend
$72 million on a coach,
I'm thinking Cam Whitmore or Jarris Walker.
Yeah, so like even with that, if you're paying that much money to a coach, you got to make you got to make 1, 2, maybe even 3 personnel moves that match this level of financial commitment, because you can't just make this commitment with what you currently have and expect what you currently have to match up to this financial commitment.
I think a team that feels they're a few steps away might take a flyer, high risk, high reward on Wiseman if you wanted to trade Wiseman. I think that because big men just move around, they get chances. I think that a contender might come after Bogdanovich, and maybe you can fleece a contender at least for draft picks, if nothing else. But the time is now. Monty Williams is there. By the time we finish next season and going into his second season, it's playoff time. It's playoff time. It's that simple.
You think he has one season to fill it out, like the first round boxing match?
I think with the money that they're paying him, that's what they're expecting.
Yeah, but like I said, they have to make a player. If they don't make a personnel move that's commensurate with this money, then they shouldn't expect anything. Because if you're going to give a guy $12 million to coach a team that you currently have, then you're willing to sacrifice 24 to 36 million of that 72 in hopes that he can get that group better. But unless they go out and package a number 5 pick and Wiseman and some other players and bring in Dame Lillard, or package Cunningham and something and move him somewhere and bring in bring in some, maybe a couple unhappy players. Maybe you take a flyer on Kyrie. I know only a few teams really have that cap money, but Detroit's one of them. Maybe you move Cunningham draft night. You might have to just go, if you're gonna, like I said, if you're gonna overpay the coach $12 million, then you might have to pay Kyrie 3 years, $130 million.
But when the hell is Toronto going to hire a coach?
They probably going to just get Budenholzer. Just a full on.
Well, he's not. Well, he's not. He's not one of the finalists that I saw. You know, it looks like they're going with some young guys. So that's probably, going back to your point, that's probably why they fired Nick Nurse, because maybe they're going to have the fire sale and get everybody out of there, because Van Vliet's probably not going to be back. You know, you got to make a decision. Like, are you going to get rid of OG or Siakam or both? You know, it's time in Toronto. That championship team, once Kawhi was gone, the championships were gone. So, you know, what do you do now?
The one and done.
What do you do now? So while Toronto's trying to find a coach a new home, it's time to find DeAndre Hopkins a new home. I'm surprised nobody signed him yet. I know from what I was reading, it looks like Buffalo and Kansas City don't have the money. You know, they would have to move a lot of things around.
The number that I had heard, he was owed $19 million, I believe, from Arizona, because we talked about this in one of our earlier shows. So I think he was already owed $19 million, but his cap hit was going to be crazy. That's why I was saying, like, you can't release him, you can't cut him. But Odell Beckham getting $18 million, he didn't play at all last year. You know, that's because I was listening to the Rich Eisen show the day he got released, because Rich Eisen was like, what? Like, he's like, read this again. He was like, can we verify this Twitter? Because he's like, you never know now, because everybody pays for the check marks. He's like,
right,
can we verify this is a real thing? And the argument was between teams and trade talks was to trade DeAndre Hopkins to any team. Get a 4th, 5th round pick, maybe a 2nd, whatever you were asking for. The team had to agree to the contract. DeAndre would have to agree to rework the contract.
Right.
And neither one of those things happened. So Arizona sitting there with a team that talent-wise is a number 3 pick at worst or best, whatever words you want to use. Like, I can't see them with that roster without their starting quarterback, with the new head coach, no real identity defensively, no weapons offensively, 17 games. I mean, do you see 3-14?
Possibly
2-15 likely.
New quarterback playing against San Francisco's defense twice.
2 games.
You
2
know,
games
Seattle.
against the Rams. 2 games against Seattle.
That's whatever 6 already.
That's 6 losses right there. I don't even know. I haven't even heard a name of the guy that they are going to start at QB. I don't know if Colt McCoy's still on the roster, but if he's the type of guy that he'll win you a game. He'll make some kind of move where you could potentially get a win with Colt McCoy. But without a real weapon on the outside, you know, so teams have to do nothing but put 8 guys in the box and just beat your brakes out. So they gave Kyler this extension last year. This year is getting paid. I think this year is getting paid. And everyone's talking about the NFL. You can't really tell are out there just essentially auditioning for another team. So guys going to play hard because you can't play passive. It's Kyler Murray. He tore his ACL in December. Best case scenario, he's not coming back.
Yeah,
like even if his doctor told him 1 year and he wanted to rush it and he rushed it to 10 months, that puts him at October. They're probably already 0-6, 0-7 by mid-October. He's like, why am I going to rush back for a team? Not like he can run off 10 wins in a row. So you got Caleb Williams potentially sitting there as your number one quarterback, or Drake May, or what these other guys that. So Kyler Murray could be on the move. So I think they just were just like, you know what, we're gonna cut bait with everything. The whole Josh Rosen, Steve Kirk thing that they did a few years ago.
Yeah.
So DeAndre Hopkins probably saw the writing on the wall, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not restructuring," because then they were going to trade him to get whatever best deal they could for the team.
Right.
So he did what Derek Carr did. Like, I don't think that's a good thing for me and my family, because the Raiders were trying to do the same thing with him. Let's restructure it, and I don't think that's a good idea for me and my family. And he got to pick his team.
Yeah, so it's going to be either Colt McCoy or 5th round draft pick Clayton Tune out of the University of Houston. So it's going to be one of those two. Those are the only other quarterbacks on the roster as of this moment.
And I can't think of any other team that could be worse than 3-14.
Yeah, so it sounds like, for all intents and purposes, it sounds like Buffalo is out. Kansas City is probably out, even though that would probably be the best place, obviously.
Man, they can make it work, because I think Mahomes is talking about restructuring his deal after all these guys started getting paid.
And then, for some reason, Detroit was in the discussion, and I didn't understand that one. But I myself, and I know, Commander Nation is going to kill me for this one, but I thought, why not the Giants?
I think every team, realistically, if you have a bona fide 1 and a good 2, then DeAndre Hopkins is a good option, because he can come in and be your definitive 2, and your good 2 can be your great slot receiver. So any team that is in that situation, personally, as a Falcons fan, I think we have a good young 1 that could be an up and coming 1, with DeAndre playing the 2, but getting Ritter's gonna have to throw it to somebody. But I don't see DeAndre Hopkins wanting to go to one of these startup teams. People are talking about the Jets. The Jets have
They got too much going on. Yeah,
they have two. You can't just run 5 wide all game long, and Aaron Rodgers throws 60 passes, and your 5 wide receivers get 10 catches each. Like, it just is unlikely. It'll just be more turmoil than success.
All right, so let's do it.
So we're gonna go NFC East.
Yeah.
Dallas, no, because
they just picked up Brandon Cooks. Well, they just picked up Brandon Cooks as well, and they still got Gallup. So
Philly has a bona fide 1 and 2, or 1 and 1A.
I've heard Philly is a sleeper, but I don't buy it.
Yeah, but they run the ball a lot. They run it with the quarterback. They run it with the running backs. They throw to the tight end, and they have AJ Brown, Devon.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Washington, no.
Washington, no, because I don't think he'd want to go there.
No, not with Sam Howell, at least. We got McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, so, the Giants, I like the Giants because I was looking at their list of receivers and nobody stands out, but I had forgot that they signed Paris Campbell from Indianapolis. So, and they drafted Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. So they're probably not. I think he could still go there. They still got Darius Slayton. They still got
too much.
They still got Isaiah Hodgkins. They got I was about to say, I think they got Crowder. They got Wan'Dale Robinson, who they just drafted 2 or 3 years ago, that hasn't got a lot of time yet. So I think the Giants are a good spot if they're serious about winning and helping Daniel Jones out, because they had one of the worst receiving cores in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, but does he really make the receiving core better? Because, I
don't know. Daniel Jones got to throw the ball for us to find out.
That's what I'm saying. So it didn't seem like Daniel Jones and the Giants offense had a lot of outside the number routes.
Right.
So you get a guy who just left the team that was essentially going to go nowhere to join a team that might go halfway. I mean, granted, they were a playoff team last year, but I mean, what you going to go? Are you going to go 10-7 this year?
Maybe.
I think it's realistically, we go AFC. So if we go NFC East, the Washington probably has the best
not
shots
with those quarterbacks
because they don't have the wide receiver depth.
But
so he can come in
those quarterbacks though. He ain't gonna come.
He
play
can
with those
come in
quarterbacks.
and old boy can move to the slot. You go NFC South, the Orleans.
Maybe.
I don't know what's up with Michael Thomas. I don't know if he's going to ever, if he's just going to keep getting checks.
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad spot. I mean, obviously, Derek Carr isn't the cooler than the other side of the pillow or anything, but I mean, he's a decent enough quarterback.
I think Derek Carr's a good quarterback.
I think he's a good quarterback too.
I think he has a great temperament. I think he's very even keeled. I think he likes having a big target. He looks for the big target. Waller, it was games where Waller got 20 targets.
Oh yeah, and the Giants got Waller.
The Giants got Waller, so so that's going to take targets away from. So that wouldn't work. Carolina, but their quarterback situation is just as,
I shall call him Mini-Me.
Just as it's not as stable. It's just as unstable as the Arizona situation. Like I said, Atlanta is. If he wanted to go somewhere and be, like, if he wanted to go to a team and get them over the hump, the proverbial hump, Washington, Atlanta, even the Giants, just one of these teams is like, I'm gonna do what Stephon Diggs did when he went to Buffalo, and all of a sudden Josh Allen's numbers skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Atlanta, and now Desmond Ritter's probably projected realistically over 17 games to get you about 3,200 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 or 10 picks, like realistically.
And then
you get DeAndre Hopkins, he's projected over 4,000 yards, 26, 27 touchdowns. Then, I don't know if he does it though.
Minnesota doesn't need him. Jordan Love ain't getting them.
Jordan Love, he's not going to Green Bay.
Green Bay didn't get receivers for Aaron Rodgers. They're not getting receivers for Jordan Love.
I think realistically, we can probably, we can go through all the divisions.
I like Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh don't typically do things like that.
Pittsburgh doesn't do things like that. And the quarterback play, he would have to have the mindset of watch what I do for the quarterback versus I need to go to a place where the quarterback can do for me. And realistically, there's only a few places.
Well, New England
Chargers,
entered the chat. New England entered the chat.
Mac Jones, it's the same thing. He would be, gotta keep in mind, he spent a few years in Houston.
But he's got to go where the money. He's got to go where the money is.
I think he can go for $6 million to Kansas City.
Deshaun said, "Come on to Cleveland."
Once again, you would be going somewhere and hoping that your presence makes the team better versus this quarterback made me, I'm going to a made guy. Mm-hmm. Maybe the Chargers, if they can fit the space. I know they always in love and out of love with Keenan Allen. I know Mike Williams is always has a back injury, it seems like. So that'd be a viable option. But it's going to be somewhere where the team is top 6 in the league. Mm-hmm. He's not going to go. He's not going to go to a rebuild because he, like I said, if he didn't spend all those years catching passes from guys like T.J. Yates and Matt Schaub and Tom Savage before they got Deshaun Watson, if he didn't spend those years, basically his early part of his prime, he had like Julio Jones numbers, but Julio Jones had Matt Ryan every single week for all those years.
4 Pro Bowls and 3 All-Pros.
Brock Osweiler throwing him passes at one point.
Asswater, yeah.
So it's just I don't think he's interested in doing, because he probably felt like Kyler Murray was one of these early Houston guys. Like, yo, you not any better. Because I saw a couple
What
of
about the Hail Mary?
yeah, he caught it in triple coverage. That was DeAndre Hopkins. That wasn't a Kyler Murray had a great throw. I'm not going to knock the throw.
Yeah, I was about to say somebody had to get the ball there.
any quarterback can make a great throw into triple coverage, and it would get knocked down. Like, you can make those Hail Mary throws are miraculous. They're 65, 68, 70 yards in the air. Some of these throws. They're great throws, but they're in a triple or quadruple coverage, more likely to get knocked down. The catch in that sequence was better because 9 times out of 10 that pass gets knocked down, but he legit caught it in between 6 hands.
Could you imagine being a receiver? Could you imagine being a receiver going for a Hail Mary and you got Megatron back there playing defense?
Yo, remember when Gronk stumbled and Miami scored? Sometimes it's just like, I think coaches overdo it. Like, Joe, just keep the safety out there.
Yeah. But I mean, are you surprised though that nobody signed him? Because I'm legit surprised that nobody signed him yet.
I'm not surprised because I think there's probably only, I don't know what he said publicly. I haven't heard an interview or read any real quotes, but there's realistically, like I said, if we look at his track record, we look at his age, and we look at what he can still do, one of the top 6 teams like Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, maybe Oakland. I'm not sure how he feels about Garoppolo as a passer.
Man, if he goes to Baltimore, how about that for a turnaround at receiver?
It would be a no excuses situation, but they don't have, like, I don't know how much money you pay per position. I don't know how they allocate that. Like I said, I'm looking for internships if somebody wants to have me come on and teach me how y'all work the salary cap. But I imagine that you're probably not going to spend $37 million on 2 wide receivers who played less than 10 games last season out of a potential. Between the two of them, they could have played 34 games.
Well, yeah, his last full season was 2020.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, I'm not sure if you're spending $37 million because he's going to want 19 to 20 million. You know, Odell got 15 with the potential bonus and get up to 18. So he's going to want at least that. So $36 million for this position. Yeah, it looks good on Madden. It looks legit where you could just have OBJ on one side and DeAndre Hopkins on the other side. But realistically, I think his agent going to sit down because Kansas City is the team that makes the most sense for him because he would be a bona fide number 1. He would be with a great organization, with a good defense, and a great quarterback. So I think he goes there for $6.5 million or whatever number they can give him if they call him.
And then Kansas City wins the Super Bowl again?
Well, they definitely convert a lot of 3rd and 8s with ease between Kelsey
without him.
And yeah. And you add him, and then, like I said, and people talk about, like, you have your young wide receivers, got Kadarius Toney. You can just have him in the slot doing all the Debo, Samuel stuff. You can have him run those deep crossing routes that Tyreek used to run, and the ones I thought McCole Hardman was gonna run, but for some reason he just looked like he just never was participating in the football game.
He's having
like one of those guys that just was fast. He played football and he just kept playing because they always wanted him on the team.
He's having an interesting career. Go from Patrick Mahomes to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but
he's like the reverse. He's like the reverse of DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, but he's going to be 5th. He won't get on the field.
He might be 6th. Nah,
yeah, if he gets 17 catches this year, I'd be surprised.
17.
I watched him in Kansas City. Literally, just not because I like that game. You know, we stream all the games. I watched a lot of Kansas City games. I would have you
know that I watched network TV.
Yeah, I'm streaming all day. iPad, iPhone, laptop, all of that. I'm streaming multiple games at once. I'm chilling. It seemed like his speed it's probably on. I won't say on par because like Tyreek Hill just had like just a different gear, but he definitely had the speed to take the top off the defense.
Well, you know, if he ain't
and I
faster than
never seen him
Tyreek,
even run those routes, like those deep over routes where you just need the quarterback rolls out and then the wide receiver has to come all the way across the field.
well, he said that if he ain't faster than Tyreek, he the closest one.
Well, he put zero effort into it. It seemed like it just seemed like he just wasn't as active in that aspect of the passing game. So once he goes to so like I said, like 17 catches realistically.
Yeah, we'll see. You know,
DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs. It probably happened after once somebody gets hurt somewhere. One of these top teams. I'm not calling it, but somebody turf toe, some kind of injury. Once that happens, and someone has to call him, and they give him a number. Hey, we'll give you $12 million. Then he'll call his agent to call another team like, hey, we just got a call from the Chargers. They're looking at 14 to 15 million for my guy. So
they usually do have a receiver hurt, even when it ain't Mike Williams. Keenan Allen gets hurt too.
Whoever has soon as his agent gets a call, it's go time.
Oh, what a segue that was. Good job.
Yeah.
Coming and going. Shannon Sharpe leaving Undisputed, getting bought out from Fox. He's going to be there through the NBA Finals. You know, a lot of things is happening around the NBA Finals. We got to wait for the finals to end just for Ja Morant's suspension. Figure out what that is.
It's about to be bananas.
The finals is like, I don't even know. Like, the finals is in the way. Hurry up, Denver.
I wonder how heavy that table is Shannon and Skip sit at. Because if it's flippable.
Put your glasses on, man. Put your glasses on.
Put your glasses back on. When he said that, I was like, yeah, he's done. Listen, because one thing I know, all right, I'm from Virginia, so people say it's not really the South. It's like mixed. Like I describe to people all the time, but like light-skinned kids. We're right in the middle, so you have your Southern things I love. Like I love going home, get my aunt's fried chicken and the greens. Literally every time I come home, it's probably chicken just on paper towels on the stove or some bread every time. Or somebody's ready to fry it up. Or I took my girlfriend home. I'm like, you never had a fried egg and cheese bologna sandwich? So we fired that up. So like, I get that part. But the thing about like Southern men, and this is black men, white men, but Southern men have like I'm going to respect you because you're a man and I expect you to respect me as a man. And I'm a ride for you as a man. That's why like these Southern football teams just stay together. It just this thing we just have, this camaraderie, this ideology of just manhood. That Tom Brady so what Hall of Fame argument when Shannon said, you'll take a personal shot at me. Like I'm your coworker. I'm your co-host. We work together. I think their show started like 2016. So this was late 2022. So, we're over 6 years working together, this proximity through COVID, all this time we spent together. And you're going to take a personal shot at me. On top of the fact, he was like, I'm in the Hall of Fame. You talk about me like I'm a bum. I'm in the Hall of Fame. And he says, so what? Like, that so what went back to he started playing football at 8 years old. And he worked all the way up to 35 and, retired, won 3 Super Bowls and went to the Hall of Fame. He's like,
out of Savannah State.
You this seventh round pick, you discounted my entire life for that point. 27 years of my hard work. His brother having a neck injury, like that family ingrained all the stuff he put into football, and you disregard that just to appease Tom Brady in a proverbial argument when all I said he was playing.
But then go get Tom Brady to sit in this chair.
He was done. He was done. He probably was done before then, but publicly, you can't admit that. It's nothing that Skip can say in an apology that can mend what he said. Not a thing he can say to him.
I still can't believe he got away with calling this dude Bosch Spice. Like, Skip be straight up disrespectful, man. Like, I don't know how.
That's comedic. Petty. It's petty and it's one thing. But if he flat out said, if Chris Bosh was on there and was like, I won 2 NBA championships, and he's screaming in his face, so what? If you didn't have LeBron, you wouldn't have done anything in your whole career. Then that's like, all right, that's personal. You got some petty nickname for me, whatever. You can dislike me at work, whatever. But if you go to leadership and say, I heard Raphael did this, then I'm like, okay, now you're trying to adversely bother me. You can not like me, and that's fine. You can have a little petty nickname for me with your friends, and that's fine. But once you cross the line of, I'm going to verbally disrespect you, publicly disrespect you, then it's like, okay. Shannon did a great job of keeping it together, but I can tell from then he started getting a lot of money for Club Shay Shay.
Well, you know what the worst was? When DeMar Hamlin, when that happened, and Skip, everybody overreacted. I said it, overreacted to his tweet. And Shannon got on TV.
People took the tweet out of context, yeah.
They definitely did, just because of who it was. And, Shannon started the show trying to have an epilogue or whatever, and Skip's like jumping in, and he's like, I can't even get through the epilogue, Skip. I can't even, and he's like, go ahead, Jenny.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was on some, you lucky that this camera is on. You're lucky that, a woman is sitting right here. You're lucky that we're in the studio.
Because he said something else to Skip
in my career.
Because Skip, for the most part, he's one of those people that's like, I think he's smart. I think he's a smart person. I don't want to diminish his intelligence, but his accountability for his analysis is completely just non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
So in the tweet argument, Shannon said, I know people in the building wanted you to take it down. So obviously somebody had a problem with it. Because Skip was trying to make it seem like, he was like, and you could just see, he was like, you know what? I'm done with this show. So I'm just going to say it. Like when you're done with a relationship, he's going to say, like, you know what? Yeah, your ankles are fat. I don't care. Deal with it. Either do some squats.
Don't wear those stripes.
Don't wear these stripes. Don't eat these Thin Mints, whatever. Like, you just so done. You just say whatever's on your mind. There's no tack. He was like, I know people in the building want you to take it down. So obviously somebody had a problem with that tweet. But go ahead, Skip. And he sat back in his chair, and I was like, yeah, he's done. But on top of that, the show has been so bad for the last about 2 years. Let me think.
Oh, no, this is longer than that.
But I mean, like, bad to the point where
as soon as LeBron went to the Lakers, it was over.
I think so we had COVID that kind of like spaced it out and gapped it out. And then then we had Giannis play so well. So I think we had more stuff to talk about. The NFL was pretty interesting.
But they just didn't, though. Like, that's the thing. We had these things, but they just didn't do it.
The Cowboys were good, so those conversations were relevant. The problem we started having, because you and I started having these conversations last couple of years, because I've been taking my trips back and forth to Pittsburgh, so I've been calling you a lot more since about 2020. We've been having like those conversations on those trips. So we're going on about 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
They would have a segment between the two of them talking about Dallas, and they'll talk about it for 20 minutes. And then they'll have a Lakers segment. And then they'll have a Tom Brady segment. And then they'll bring somebody on to talk about the Lakers.
Yeah.
And then they'll bring Eric Dickerson on to talk about the Cowboys and the Rams. A little bit of the Rams, a lot of the Cowboys. Or if the Rams played the Cowboys, shut it down.
Yeah, then they had Greg Jennings just for some Aaron Rodgers.
Anytime Aaron Rodgers was a conversation, Greg Jennings. But they would have their own conversation for 20 minutes and then bring some, like, listen, we're not going to bring on another person to talk about this in an hour from now after we say everything we say over the next 20 or 25 minutes. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So they were doing that so much, it got to the point where I was like, man, I'm sick of watching these shows. So I started watching Odd Couple more, and First Things First, and then that started becoming redundant. So like all the shows essentially on Fox, they have people that I like. I like watching them. I like their takes when they give takes, but it becomes redundant. And like I said, I heard earlier today, I can't source it. I apologize for that. But I guess Skip has had creative control the entire time. You know, how long they're going to talk about this segment, what segment is going to be.
Well, as much as they're paying him, he has to.
I mean, they talked about Baker Mayfield so much to the point where I knew when a Baker Mayfield segment was on, I was like, he was going to say that 14-game stretch when Baker was 11-3 and he won a playoff game. He won our playoff. Like, you need to win 3 or 4 to win a Super Bowl if you don't have home field advantage.
Baker Mayfield went to Oklahoma.
And he just kept pounding the table. And I think Shannon's like, dog, we're literally having, if you and I were having the same conversation on this podcast we do a couple times a week, I'd have been like, nah, I can't make it today, Mike. I'd have an excuse. And we only do it a couple times a week. They do it 5 days a week. And they literally talk about the same 8 things. Deshaun Watson had a whole sexual assault case.
With 27 women or something like that. Yeah.
Multiple. They would spend less time on that than they did on Mike McCarthy in the hot seat when the man is 24-10 in 2 years. How you always on the hot seat? That's not even a realistic conversation.
And Mike McCarthy don't look like what Skip wanted his coach to look like.
Oh yeah, Jenny was mad about that. You can tell how many people don't come on the show anymore. Like, it has to be a real problem. It has to be a real problem because we've seen the whole First Take, Stephen A. Smith, and we talked about this the other night when we were talking. It's like he says it for shock value, but it's like he doesn't say anything shocking.
No, he doesn't say anything shocking. He just takes 2.5 and make it like 0.7. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's ridiculous what he. I mean, like, and what he says is just. It's not even like good for like sports analysis. It's just all feelings. Like, Tom Brady had a game. What was that? The game, I think the game against the Rams, where he had like a 12 passer rating up until like the last drive. And then they won the game. And I think it might have been a game against some backups. Well, it was a game. I think it was a game against New Orleans. They had backups. It was a game where like it was like some quarterback out of nowhere. It was the Arizona game when they were playing the dude that went to Penn State, McSorley or something like that. Trace McSorley.
Yeah.
And then they ended up pulling out the win. And he was like, and Shannon was like, yo, he played terrible most of that game, and Arizona just gave the game away. Arizona was trying to give the game away the whole time. And he was like, "Oh, you just hate him."
That sounds like the same arguments that he was having with Stephen A. about Tim Tebow. Daddy. Because he plays when the game is on the line. All he does is win. Daddy, I want to help. So I salute. I salute Shannon Sharpe for dealing with it that long. To be honest with you, like, Shannon Sharpe is a better man than I.
His patience is just like, he needs to write a book.
Well, I'm sure the money was nice. I'm sure the money was nice. But, I'm sure that had something to do with it. But at some point,
Club Shay Shay has been rocking. So I imagine that, I guess that's under Fox, and he's taking that with them. So, I mean, maybe it's a wise move where he just kind of built up his brand, and now he built all these relationships with current players and owners and Magic Johnson and Steve Harvey and just other. Excuse me, I can't kick this cold at all. Apologies to the audience. Maybe he's done enough to where he was like, all right, I have enough either money in the bank or I have enough people that are willing to invest in me. Steve Harvey's been in the radio for years, the radio game, and that syndicated money is just that's that Ryan Seacrest money. It's different. People don't think about it because it's radio, but if your radio show, like for instance, when this podcast reaches 100,000 people twice a week, and we're selling ad space, we are selling ad space to 200,000 ears. That's huge. Imagine like a Pepsi advertisement popping right now. You'd be right to 7-Eleven, or even a 7-Eleven advertisement, or Monster or
Red Bull.
Red Bull. I have stuff behind me and all, so all the stuff that you see behind Mike, it'll switch up. And so now for 2 hours, you're watching us and you're seeing this advertisement money and you're buying stuff. They're sending us, they might send us 10 grand. Whereas a commercial that reached 100,000 people might have cost them 75,000 at some point. But it's like, okay, cool. We'll give these two guys starting a podcast 10 grand. So Shannon's like, cool. I can go back to ESPN, or I can go to radio, or I can go straight to YouTube and get my deal. The audience is going to follow me because I like Shannon. I like when he uses the saying what his grandfathers and his grandmother says and what his brother says and what his aunt says. I like Shannon. And I like the interview format that he has. I like the so I'd watch him on YouTube.
Yeah,
more
I'll
than I watch.
Yeah, I'll watch him and Dylan Brooks. That's what I'll watch. But yeah, like Shannon has definitely carved out a space for himself. He was always charismatic. Even back when he was on CBS, he was always charismatic. He always stood out. The Southern drawl, comes out and,
I want my restitution.
He got some wisdom with it, So like I've always been a Shannon Sharpe fan, but I had to, for my own sanity, I had to stop watching Undisputed because I already got to deal with you being a LeBron fan. And I got to deal with all this stuff and listen to this stuff it was poisoning me. I feel like it was literally poisoning me. And then we would get into the sports group and then everything was like, you could talk about like, Ja Morant bombed elementary school and it'd get like 2 comments and then you say LeBron name and then it go like 900 comments and I'm just like, bro, I can't do this no more. Like
they do like what start killing me. Like, listen, yes, I'm a LeBron fan and Mike can talk all this nonsense, but I hit him with gems because I don't hit him with emotions. I hit him with the facts because that's just what I do. Mr. Logical, I hit you with the facts. But when it got to the point where they were doing segments on tweets, I just was like, come on, man. Like, I get it. You need to talk about the polarizing players and the polarizing people in the space that you are, reporting on. So if you're a political analyst, you're not going to skip episodes where you don't talk about Donald Trump or Barack Obama or Bush or Ron DeSantis at this point, or you're going to talk about those talking points. It's just that talk about all of them. Don't give me 45 minutes on a Donald Trump tweet. They were they did it when LeBron posted something on a story. I'm supposed to be number one on everybody's list. We'll see what happens when it no longer exists. It's like he might have just been feeling that. Yes, and he knows when he tweets stuff out or he posts us on Instagram, it's going to be like a 4-alarm fire, in the reporting world.
I want y'all to doubt my team. What was that one? I want y'all to
keep that same energy. Yeah, Washed King. But when he did Washed King, he won a championship. So Zero Dark 30 won a championship. So sometimes it works. Using social media platform to express yourself. I get it. I'm not a feelings over social media guy. Like that's not my thing. If I'm feeling congratulatory, absolutely I'm posting that. If I'm feeling thankful, like my retirement post was like funny, it was long, it was heartfelt. I had, like I mentioned, my teachers, my family, but that was my Air Force retirement post.
Yeah.
But if I'm just feeling down, I don't post stuff like, yo, people respect me if I was like, I'm not one of those kind of people, but some people are, so I can't knock it. But I don't want to do 25-minute segments on it in June when the NBA Finals is going on. I don't want to do a segment on that when baseball, you got Oakland A's moving to Vegas, and right now they're probably like 12-42. It's like there's so much more to talk about in regards to the sports world.
Just because you said that, I'm gonna look it up because I'm all about being accurate.
So crazy. I know Pittsburgh is
12-47.
Wow. See, I gave him a little bit more credit.
Hey, Pittsburgh, I will have you know, the Pirates are only a half game out of first place.
Yeah, but they were up for a while, and then they took a
29-27.
A little nosedive. But do you think they talked about the Pittsburgh Pirates on Undisputed?
No, you know who they don't talk about, who they should talk about? They don't talk about the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, who are now 40-18.
They don't talk, and I know Colin Cowherd on the Herd, he says, like, I don't talk a lot of hockey because my audience doesn't want, I don't talk a lot of baseball. But I'm like, but you dictate what your audience gets. I'm not going to I like you as a person. That's why I watch your show. I don't think you say anything more in depth about LeBron or more in depth about Tom Brady, anybody else. I like you as a person. I like your guests you have on. I like the format. I like the flow that he has on the show. Like, speak for yourself. I don't like those shows because I don't like the way the people kind of deliver. I think it feels argumentative. It's not really for me. Like Acho when he was on there, if he's still on there, Marcellus Wiley, it just felt like it felt forced. It didn't feel natural. So I'm like, I can't rock with it.
That's why I like the Odd Couple, because they were talking the other day about I guess Robert Horry is going to be on the Up in Smoke podcast, and he made the statement about Olajuwon being better than Shaq and or being the best center of all time or whatever he said. And it was a clip. So in the clip, they were just like, oh, really? Yeah, like they didn't really challenge him in the clip, which I'm sure they'd probably ask some questions during the show. But then they went off. He went off about the new media and how, like,
you never asked a follow-up question.
Yeah, and he talked
pushback. About, just you're hanging out with your friends. You got your podcast. You say whatever. Yeah,
and then he was saying how they beat up, saying that. But he was saying how they had Channing Frye on there, and like I guess they beat up Channing Frye pretty bad. He's like, Channing Frye won't come on no more because we won't go softball with him. And I respect that. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to sacrifice their journalistic integrity or what they vision their show to be to kowtow to somebody that don't want tough questions or tough answers. And I mean,
just have a real conversation.
It's just a real conversation. I ain't going to attack you.
If you show up with facts, like I've mentioned this all the time, and I'll say this, I'll stomp this out to the day I die. Most people, if you have real conviction about something, a couple of follow-up questions will open up a real dialogue, and you'll have a real conversation where you learn what this person feels, and then you can express ideas. If this person has a real conviction about whatever the topic is. But if you don't, a couple follow-up questions are going to feel like you're being attacked. If you ask me about LeBron or you ask me about the Jordan, like my statement on how I'm sick of that debate, I can go back and forth with you. You can still want to have the Jordan debate. I'm not going to tell you can't have it. But
just don't include me in it.
Just don't include me in it, and I'll tell you why. And I'm like, I'm not gonna yell at you for having your conviction to the point where you feel like, as a Jordan fan, you got to carry the torch in defense of his statistical greatness. And if you're a LeBron fan, you got to carry. If you feel you got to do that, that's fine. But in a conversation with me, I'm gonna tell you I don't want to hear it, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Yeah, go argue about Melo and T-Mac or something. You know
what I'm saying? So, like, but to me, the follow-up questions, that's the part of the conversation. That's why you have it. But like, they do have a bunch of layup softball podcasts, conversations. Draymond says things on his podcast by himself, which is fine. But just a lot of it, just people just kind of expressing their feelings with not a lot of, analysis to it.
Yeah, and that's where I think Undisputed went wrong, because, when I was watching Undisputed, it was entertaining, mostly because of Shannon. But then over time, the formula just became stale and the sayings never changed. It was just all the same stuff over and over. Like, how many times can you have the same conversation, but not only have the same conversation, have the same argument, have the same words, have the same nicknames, have the same saying. It just never evolved,
It's just literally that 11-3 Baker Mayfield won a playoff thing. He brought it up, and Shannon was like, "Yo, this is his 4th team."
Yeah,
he's like, like he keeps getting traded. Like if you're saying he's that guy, but like even with Shannon, it's like, Shannon, why do you keep making the same arguments? If he was that guy, how come nobody in the NFL want him? You know why? You've already seen what he's put on tape, what he's put out on the field. You know, as an NFL player, why he is not on a team. Just say that. Don't challenge Skip as if Skip was going to change his mind. And that's where it just basically became,
hey, like, don't let Tampa win that division this year.
Stop it.
Don't let Tampa win that division, because Baker Mayfield, he's going to be right back on it.
Well, I mean, it won't matter because nobody's going to be watching Undisputed. Who's going to go get Jason Whitlock, bring him back?
Oh, jeez. Maybe he'll get your boy Acho.
Yo, that would drive me bananas. I mean, honestly, it would help me because I would just literally stop watching the show. Like, Acho just was
look at Raph killing us. We can't even network because of Raph right now.
Yo, listen, you ask me, and if they were to reach out and say, why would you say that? I'll tell you why. Like, I didn't like the fact it just felt inauthentic.
Yo, that was like
between Acho and like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you had these dynamics.
That's
and it should work, but it was like, nah, it just didn't work.
Last night I was watching on Sling, and when I first clicked the game, it was on Stephen A's World, and he was going through the list of people he was going to have on the show, and I was like, "What is happening? What is What? I didn't realize I was on ESPN2. I was like, hold on.
Like, this is not what I want to see.
You know what I mean? But I mean, I did enjoy when JJ Redick was there eating his sister's food. I did enjoy that, but but I tried not to watch Stephen A's World just because I get enough of Stephen A. the few times I do watch First Take.
Like, why do you need? Why does ESPN need another show?
Because they paying him all that money.
Just make First Take.
They working that man 22 hours a day.
If you made First Take better, you wouldn't need all this extra stuff.
In the last 2 years,
these shows are bad.
In the last 2 years, Stephen A. remind me of Obama before presidency and Obama leaving the White House. Just in the last 2 years, that man be tired.
Yo, it's just, I don't know. For me,
hold up, and while we at it, get Mad Dog off of there too.
I can't watch it, and I know it sounds hypocritical of me as I was telling you. I enjoy hearing the opinions of other people.
Right.
Because I can get something from that. I can get value from that. The problem is every single conversation is hypothetical. It's era versus era. It's feelings over facts.
Hyperbole.
It's just like hyperbole. It's just so much in my Marcellus Wiley Acho thing. And I told you this before. It just felt as if there were two educated black men trying to articulate how educated and how intelligent they were through the framework of sport versus just talking about the sport. Like, it just felt it just felt like two people like trying to out professor each other. It's like, this isn't a dissertation. You're not auditioning to get, you're not trying to interview for a job at Princeton and hopefully to get tenure. Like, you're talking about sports. Like, just not necessarily dumb it down, but like, it just like the flow of it is like, let me tell you something, Acho. Like, it just was like, it just felt like a intellectual tennis match, and neither one of them said a thing. Like, none of them just said like, yo, listen, I think LeBron is this type of player. I think he's transcendent. You can dig into the source. Like Stephen A. Smith talks about all the time. He reads. That's why I learned the word bloviate from Stephen A. Smith.
I like.
I was like, I love that word. It's
my word is temerity.
Gobsmacked. That's the word I got from Nick Wright and Chris Broussard gobsmacked. Where you're just like you're in complete disbelief at the result of something. I'm like, this is what I like. And I just feel like they have too many athletes that are just good shit talkers.
But see, that's why I wonder with Shannon
talking about sports.
Well, that's why I wonder with Shannon, like with all the stuff that you're saying, like, was it just all Skip, or like, was it just like Skip was the biggest factor, but it was just a culmination of a lot of things?
If like from the outside looking in, I think I just think we knew when he got stale. Like I talk about, this is like one thing I asked, I was like, if I ever met a movie star that did a terrible movie and everybody rated like, like if I ever ran into Ben Affleck and he's in a good mood and he'll really answer this question, I'm like, when did you realize that Geely just was a bad movie? Like while you're filming it, because you had Al Pacino in it, you had J-Lo in it, you probably had a decent little budget. It's like, at what point were you like, this is a terrible movie? Because you're showing up 6, 7, 8, 10 weeks to film these movies. At what point are you like, you know what? This is a terrible movie.
That's how I feel about producers. Why y'all keep putting Nicolas Cage in these movies?
Well, I mean, but sometimes it works because he's had so many bombs that you put him in a movie where he plays himself, and it just kind of it's a hit. But you got to take you got to take the risk sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think Shannon, I think he just kind of realized was like the Baker Mayfield saga. I think that probably was the beginning of the end. Tom Brady making it to the Super Bowl, and Baker coinciding with Baker Mayfield's pseudo success, and then both of them subsequently collapsing at the same time. I think Shannon was like, why won't you just admit that both of these guys that you love are playing poorly? That's all he wanted. And it was like he was having this conversation 3, 4, 5 times a week. I got a good friend of mine. He's in my group chat, and we talk about this all the time. But sometimes you get in a conversation with him like, listen, stop. At some point, you got to recognize that you're not hearing everything that everyone's saying to you. You can get pissy if you want, but I'm sick of giving you the same bit of advice. It was like, we're sick. I'm sick of saying this over and over again. I'm sick of saying these guys are not top 5 quarterbacks the way you talk about them. I'm sick of having this conversation, especially in a sport where I'm in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to tell you this guy is no good, but yet I gotta have this conversation with you every single week because you're driving the content. It is.
Yeah.
Just because of who it is, you're driving the content. And then with Shannon being an avid, very vocal LeBron fan, it's like, come on, you don't have these kind of critiques. There's a conversation I had with you the other day. Like, you don't have these kind of critiques for other players. Why is it so visceral for LeBron? Like, no, I have this for everybody. And it's like, no, you don't. And I think just that. And then the Cowboys, he was like, every year the Cowboys do well in the regular season, they fall short in the playoffs. That's just a simple statement of fact. They went 24-10 the last 2 years, and they haven't hosted an NFC Championship game yet. So, how do you win 60% of your games, 70% of your games, and you don't host an NFC Championship game? So I think just that redundancy of every single day knowing I'm going to have this same argument, the same conversation is like, and on top of the fact, you disrespect me in these conversations that I don't want to have. So it's like, all right, yeah. So hopefully he makes another move.
We wish you the best, Uncle Shay.
Yeah. Skip, good luck getting Jason Whitlock to come back to Fox Sports 1 or whoever you're going to get.
Hey, maybe
somebody's going to jump at the opportunity.
I'll tell you,
Greg Jennings.
We're the fools. They're going to put Tom Brady on there, bro.
Nah. you gotta have a I think they would go with a black co-host. I think just the basic lack of originality of casting.
And I can't get out of here without saying free the stews too. You know what I'm saying? Like, they showed up, made Skip look bad, and then they just disappeared. And Water Pistol Pete, Jalen Rose got up out of there for a little while, so Skippy wielding that power, man. But
I think back up. No, back up. Please. You can talk.
But ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of show where Mr. Logical and I have some things on our mind that we share with you called Get It Off My Chest. So, Mr. Logical, the floor is yours.
Get off my chest. Get off my chest. All right. Adam Silver. I know we we kind of touched on it. We talked about it in our pre-show. I think we might have talked about it a little bit. But if you planned on suspending Ja Morant, you didn't need to make an announcement to say later I'm going to make an announcement. You could have just waited till the NBA Finals were over, give Denver, Miami their opportunity to control the basketball airways for, 4 to 7 games, whatever it takes, somewhere in that range, at least 4 games. But instead, you allowed just this insatiable desire to just share information halfway, which is part of the problem in our current society. People don't get all this information, don't get all the facts straight, and you just put information out there where it just is going to take away from the NBA Finals. Because after every game, so when Denver goes up 2-0, the conversation is going to be, hey, after a couple more games, we're going to find out what happened to Ja Morant. And then it's going to be, after this game, we can find out what happened to Ja Morant. And then Joker's going to win Finals MVP. He's going to have average triple-double. It's going to be 29, 12, and 13. And it's going to be like, oh, man, great job, Denver. Miami's 8 seed, they had a value run. But now Adam Silver, we got to wait when he's going to announce Ja Morant's suspension. And it's going to be fair. Should he be suspended at all? And it's just going to be any other time a team was a championship in a sport of this popularity, they get the floor. Give them the floor. They put a lot of time in. At this point, we're looking at 98 games for Denver and maybe a little over 100 for Miami because they played in the play-in. They just played a 7-game series. You're the commissioner of the league. Your job is to galvanize people to watch your sport, not create storylines and dramas. Let the sport do that. Let the last-second shot go through. No one's talking about the refs being investigated. No one's talking about all of that, but you talk about the players. So I just don't want Ja Morant to be the scapegoat for the NBA and then Denver not get their credit or Miami not get their credit for all the work they put in because you decided to drop this bomb in the middle of the NBA Finals. I think it's whack. I think you could have just made your decision, kept it tight to the vest, and after the finals was over, after the parade, then make your announcement. But that's just me. I'm not a feelings guy. I don't have to share everything on my feelings all the time. I mean, everybody else seems to like doing that. Adam Silver seems to be one of those guys running around doing all these apology interviews. I'm like, you're the commissioner. You ain't got to do none of that. David Stern didn't say anything when Michael Jordan retired for 2 years, even though the rumor was he made him leave. He didn't go out there and have a press conference about it. So, cool. If you want to just keep throwing your players under the bus, make sure you do it for everybody then. Holla at your boy.
I know. Can't you imagine, so Nicola, how did you guys do it? Everybody played well. Miami is a very good team. So what do you think is going to happen with Ja Morant?
I mean, the question is going to be on everyone's mind. Can you guys repeat in the West? And with
have you heard anything?
Ja Morant, you guys have a good opportunity to potentially repeat in the West because, maybe LeBron retires or Ja Morant gets suspended for half the season. He's like, yo, can I talk about these trophies I'm holding? Bill Russell Trophy and, the Larry O'Brien. Can we talk about that real quick? Can we talk about my coaches? Can we talk about an average of 30-point triple-double in the finals? Can we talk about that?
Can
and his brother's going to come and slap Mike Breen in the face.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So y'all know the NHL finals start tomorrow night. Vegas and in Florida. So Panthers and Golden Knights. So that's good. So I apologize. Saying because I was struggling yesterday 2-5 daily. I was trying to find some topics to talk about. I landed on something today, but I'm gonna get into it again because it just be making me mad. So y'all know March Madness and everything came and went. The madness was here, all that good stuff. I was the only person in America that was happy to see San Diego State and Florida Atlantic in the Final Four. Everybody else was like, "Where's my Kansas? Where's my Duke? Where's my Kentucky?" So we get to the NBA, which is a professional sport. And everybody's like, where's my Laker? Where's my Warrior? Where's my Celtic? And everybody's talking about now how Denver had this weak path to the finals. And it made me go back and think, like, how many injuries did Golden State benefit from during their championship runs? And outside of people that disliked Golden State, or maybe they were LeBron fans and were tired of Golden State doing what they were doing, they were the only people that would bring that up. Nobody would ever just say, hey, the Warriors had a weak path, or, oh, the Warriors had to play the Blazers in the Western Conference Finals, So I was looking at this. So Miami's an 8 seed. They're in the NBA Finals. First time it's ever happened. Besides the Knicks.
The 99 Knicks.
Yeah, 99 Knicks. So what that tells me is they beat the number 1 seed. Nobody upset the number 2 seed until they beat the number 2 seed. So when I go look at the West, first round might have been easy against Minnesota, but most first rounds are easy when you're the number 1 seed.
That's the reason you get the number 1 seed.
That's the reason you get the number 1 seed and you get home court, because, you got to play against Carl with a K, and, you get to play against, Anthony Edwards, who is going to be a great player, but he's still not there yet.
Yeah, young star.
But then in the second round, does the sun rise in the West? Had to get that in there. But Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, y'all knew everything that we knew going into that series and into the playoffs, and a lot of y'all still picked the Suns to get to the finals, if not win it. So the West wasn't weak then. Like, what was Denver supposed to beat Golden State? Like, let me see, 11-30 on the road this season. That was going to impress you. Sacramento was the 3 seed that nobody believed in. If they had got past and got through, you would have said Sacramento was weak. And then, lo and behold, the clouds parted and out came LeBron James. And even though he was a 7 seed, it was still these adjustments. Rui is going to be the hero here. Anthony Davis is going to erase Jokic. And you didn't get your way, and you want to not give the Nuggets their credit. So when the Nuggets hug this trophy in a couple of days, or, in a couple of weeks, whatever it is, whenever the Nuggets are hoisting that thing, I just want you to not even watch. Just go watch your old 2016 NBA Finals film to get your rocks off. So that's what I wanted to say. Give the Nuggets their props. I mean, what do you want? Like, what do you want? Like, you wanted so you wanted Golden State to potentially get to the finals with an 11-30 road record.
Nah, they wanted
lose every
game.
They
wanted a Miami LA final just so they can highlight the 2 glorious cities on either coast.
Well, I don't even know what
they wanted the Miami LA rematch because they got it in the
bubble. The Final Four was all bubble.
Yeah, but you had your Miami, you had your Miami LA rematch. You had the opportunity to travel from Miami to LA in June, the whole mystique. But with that being said, Denver was the best team in the NBA for 99% of the season.
Yo, why do people do this? Somebody told me that if Miami wins this championship, then Jimmy Butler is is the best player in Heat history. Like, why do people do this?
Because you can't lose it, because the whole argument is based on feelings. Because any facts will show otherwise. facts of how many regular season wins, how many regular season awards, how many finals, like how many MVP votes players receive. All of that's factored in to the history of a team. But the end all championship or bust ideology that people are kind of running around with, you can just count the rings and just be like, oh, this person has a ring, he's great. It's like, oh, if Jokic wins this ring, he'll be the greatest center of all time. Like, so you need to tell me 4 more wins is gonna catapult him from wherever he currently is in his proverbial list to greatest of all time. Is like, just that narrative doesn't make any sense. I go back to the Tom Brady discussion that we've had. The first Super Bowl he won against the Rams, he threw for like 150 yards, was Super Bowl MVP. But in most scenarios, a team would have taken a knee and gone into overtime, which would have been like the before analytics, it would have been the wise thing to do. Young quarterback backed up. You didn't do much in the second half, giving him the ball with a minute, some change left, but he wins. Atlanta runs the ball on second down, and they kick a field goal. They go up 11. He doesn't have that great 28-3 comeback. That game's over. But then the Eli game, if they would have called in the grasp, then he would have been 19-0. So like all of these things can just change, and it's like to just be like, oh, this win will make this person the greatest of all time. Is like if they legitimately gave the ball to Marshawn Lynch twice, he probably would have scored in that Seattle game. But if Kurtz doesn't even make that crazy catch, they're not even inside the 5. So it's like so many things have to factor into a guy winning. And especially with the NBA, when you have to win so many rounds, so many games, you play for so long, to just marginalize a guy's entire season and say, like, this is going to extrapolate for the rest of his career. He's going to be the greatest because he gets this one ring now and then gets no other rings later. But statistically, he'll have more points than Wilt, and he'll have more triple doubles than Oscar. I mean, it's just such a ridiculous argument.
Just enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. It's so. I mean,
we'll get there if we're going to get there.
It's literally why I just sometimes I like the current arguments, like who's a superstar in the league right now, because you can use all the current whatever. Who's your best quarterback? I might not like the results of that list. Like I said, we discussed that.
Yeah.
But at least it's right now, and I can combat what you're saying with facts from right now.
Yeah, like is Jaylen Brown really going to get all that money?
Then it's like, is it going to be worth it? Are you going to give Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown $600 million between the two of them? Like, that seems like a crazy thing, but that's a real conversation that you're going to have about sports. But if you're having a real debate, like, who's better, Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, and it's like, you can have a better conversation and still talk about the Boston Celtics. You can talk about the lack of adjustments by the coach, but you have to be willing to do your research. I'm pretty sure if Mike pulled out his notes right now, it's a full page typed up. I got all these notes written here. It's like, if you're willing to do this stuff, you can get a 2-hour show with another competent sports individual and have an intellectual conversation. But instead, people want to go start one, bitch one, cut one. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I just
cut Melo, y'all. Cut Melo.
See what I'm saying? It's just like, so like that's my thing. Like, oh, who you cutting? Scottie Pippen or Reggie Miller?
I think that's a good one. I want to see people argue about T-Mac and Melo. I want to see that argument.
I mean, it's kind of a push, but you can, like I said, I think you can use facts, and come to some resolution with that, because they have a very similar career impact. One's a Hall of Famer. Melo's on his way to the Hall of Fame because he's literally top,
and he deserves it. And he deserves it.
Yeah, but like I said, basketball, a lot of guys get in, but he is 9th all time in scoring. But he did have a game where he had 62 points, no rebounds, no assists, and no steals. That's the craziest stat line I've ever seen.
Yo, that is Carmelo, and that, ladies and gentlemen, Sports Reports is ordered. That is Mr. Logical. I am 2-5. We will be back on Monday. We will try to keep the takes fresh. We will try to keep the conversation not hyperbole.
Yeah, we're not gonna be redundant.
Y'all,
enough around these parts, some Stoyakovich,
Yeah, that's right. Have a good weekend. Don't forget Juneteenth is coming up. Put some trouble in it. Peace.